Anyone who's seen all the instalments in this series so far might be a little bit fed up of seeing this same bit of footage over and over again, but here's a fantastic special effect. There you go. Just to liven it up a bit for you. So out of the 10 bedraggled specimens you saw there, only 2 remain still to be done, the London Taxi and the 1933 Plymouth. The Taxi, in the end of the last episode, it was looking a little bit shabby. It had already been painted once. I stripped all that paint off and here it is back in its chrome base coat again. It would have just been a waste of red paint trying to save that original job. So there it is, back to where it was, but this time with the doors in place the whole time. If you could probably see in that earlier shot of the body shell upside down, I'd held the doors in place using just a little bit of blue tack and painted the whole thing as once instead of painting the doors separately, which is what caused the problem last time. The Plymouth is more or less where we left it in the last episode, just nicely mirror polished and more or less ready for paint. This is the Taxi being put back together and with the doors open for the first time, because don't forget, when you paint the whole thing at once, you are going to get, there's probably going to be a little bit of paint disrupted when you open the doors for the first time if you've painted them actually on the vehicle. It's not done too bad. There's a few little bits here and there, but it's nothing like as bad as it was last time. Quite confident we can save that paint job. Anyway, this is the exciting colour for the Plymouth. And it's time the Plymouth saw some paint, so let's get it outside and get on with it. I've gone back to a technique I used before. Last time I used this was probably on the ISO Grifo, and I also used it on the Transit pickup, so we're going back a couple of months now. I've decided that this is the best. It might look the riskiest, it might feel wrong while you're actually doing it, but it tends to get the best results, and it's extremely rare that I have to redo it. So what I've done this time, I took the paint that I had, that jar of purple paint. It was, well, I thought it was purple. It's actually coming out more like a magenta-y pink. So already going a bit off script with this one really, because I did intend it to be a deeper purple originally. I wanted it to be all one colour, and I wanted it to be, well, first I wanted it to be like a violet colour, then I was thinking like a deep purple, and now it's ended up neither of those things, but I am happy with it at the end. So what I did with that paint, it was one that I'd concocted myself using Tamiya Clear as a basis. You always need Tamiya Clear as a basis. I mean, you can try making paints out of all kinds of weird and wonderful things, and they might go on alright in terms of like you airbrushing it on, but they'll react and look strange over the following weeks, and you'll just end up wishing you hadn't bothered and you'd used a proper paint. But you can modify Tamiya Clear using slightly unorthodox methods, and that's what I've done here. I've put some ink from a purple ballpoint pen. I think there's a purple ballpoint pen, a pink one as well, gone in there. So a variety of different colours. There'll be some Tamiya colour in there just to give it a bit of stability, more than likely. Might be a little bit of Tamiya red or a little bit of Tamiya blue, whatever it took, just to, like I say, you don't just want the clear and the ink on their own. You usually do want a little bit of Tamiya colour in there, because like I say, it just gives the whole thing that bit of stability, because if you use just the ink on its own, you tend to find that things like if you leave it in the sun for a couple of weeks, it might just fade to nothing, whereas if there's been a bit of Tamiya colour in there as well, that's designed not to fade. That's more UV resistant, so it'll make the whole thing UV resistant, if that makes sense. So you might notice I'm putting it on very close. It looks risky, and like I say, it looks like it's all going to go horribly wrong, but it never does when I do it. I took the paint as it was from the jar. I did thin it. I thinned it when I was first making the paint, but probably less than 20%. Just the standard Tamiya thinners, nothing else really. You don't really want to be using anything else with Tamiya paint, if I'm quite honest with you. I mean, there'll be some stuff that works, but like I say, with this sort of thing, it might look like it's working, you might think it's worked, and then later on you found out it kind of hasn't, because this stuff does kind of settle as you go along. So it's less than 20% thin, so it's very thick, so I'm able to just go very, very close with it, and it's almost like pouring the paint onto it, but just with a bit of atomization from the airbrush. It's the new airbrush that I got. Like the other one, I figured it could take it. It's got enough horsepower, so to speak, to be able to get the paint kicked out there, and it is just like raining the paint down onto it gently. And because I've mentioned before, it's got a very, Tamiya Clear has a very sort of well, most of the clear paints that you use for this kind of thing. I mean, I tried with the RS200, I tried the Revel version of it, and that was a similar sort of thing with their clear. It had very much a self-leveling effect to it. The big advantage is about doing it like this, close up with a very thick mix that's not really been thinned. I haven't even bothered masking the interior off because the paint's not going to go anywhere near that black interior. I mean, if it does, it's transparent anyway, so it's not really going to show up on the black, so it doesn't really matter. If it mattered, if that was a white interior, I probably would take the precaution of masking it off because it'd be bound to pick up some of the pink from somewhere. But if you look how close I can get with the nozzle and how thin how sort of narrow the atomization is, none of the paint's going anywhere near that black interior. It's just going on the bits where I want it to go on. So the main things you've got to watch out. It will, if you try and do it like this, you will find the nozzle will gum up quite a bit. Occasionally it'll stop. It'll like prevent you from actually spraying, and worse than that, it might just suddenly throw a load of, like a blob of paint onto it all at once. So you've got to keep stopping and checking and making sure you're just keeping that nozzle clear, because like I say, it will kind of gum up. But I think that's a small price to pay, because even if it does spit the odd little bit on there because you've not managed to get it, you've not remembered to keep it clear or whatever, you can usually lose that in the final finish, because again, due to the self-leveling nature. So don't worry too much if it does spit a little bit on there, the odd dot here and there. As it hardens and dries, you'll realise that'll fade. Even the odd like little bullseye that you might get in the paint, I think there were a couple of bullseyes in this, but you wouldn't know it now, because since it started to dry off, they really have just kind of disappeared. But the best part about doing it this way with hardly any thinners is just the fact that you can just get the paint whacked on there. You don't have to do one coat, then leave it for 6 years to dry, and then do another coat and all this. It's that kind of thing that can make this into more of a chore than a pleasure. And with this, you can just get the thing on there, all one coat, and it's done. You don't, when it goes on nice and thick like that, you don't have to worry about runs. When it goes on thin, yeah, it might feel nicer to actually spray it on, and it might feel more like you're doing it properly and like you're supposed to do, but you really have got to watch for it pooling and runs and things like that. When you do it like this, you don't really have to worry about all that. Look, it's almost like if you watch this, it's almost like you're drawing the paint on, and none of that even looked like it was going to sag or run at any point. I mean, don't get me wrong, I dare say that the one day that I do it this way and there's a bit of a disaster, it really will be a disaster, and it'll be beyond saving, and I'll have to dip it back in the stripping jar and do it all again right from scratch. Yeah, I know that, and I know that day's coming. But compared to all the times when I've actually thinned it out like you're supposed to do, and I've just had this thing where, well, it's almost right, but not quite. This has got, can we save it, can't we? And then you try it again 2 or 3 times, and you put other coats on, trying to make it, see if that'll cover it up, and then in the end it just goes back in the stripper anyway, and you start right again from scratch. You might as well just do it like this, where 99% of the time it's going to be absolutely fine, and then when you have a disaster, you have a big disaster, and you know it's a disaster, and you know you've got to start again. So here we are. It's not even really started to dry yet, but already I can see the kind of spectroflame effect that I wanted is there. You can see the light moving underneath the paint, but above the body, if that makes sense. So the race is on amongst these two. There's just a couple of little bits of fairly simple tidying up to and putting back together to do on both of them. So it's not really a race to see who wins, it's a race to see who doesn't come absolutely dead last. So find out in the next thrilling instalment, and thanks very much for watching.